Have you ever looked up at the stars and wondered if there is a grand design behind it all? Some kind of map that connects everything, from distant galaxies to your innermost thoughts and feelings? What if I told you that map exists, and it was charted thousands of years ago? Today we are going to embark on a journey through one of the most ancient and enigmatic blueprints of creation, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. This isn't just an archaic symbol. It's a detailed diagram of reality, divine consciousness, and even your own soul. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you won't just understand how it works. You'll start seeing hidden connections in your own life that you never knew existed. Speaking of which, do you believe the universe has a hidden structure? Let me know in the comments, yes or no, before we dive in. I'm genuinely curious what you think. So, buckle up. We're about to plunge into the divine blueprint of the cosmos. Before we start dissecting the map itself, let's nail down the basics. What exactly is Kabbalah? Contrary to popular belief, it is not a religion, nor is it magic or fortune-telling, though elements of it have certainly seeped into many mystical traditions. Kabbalah is an ancient esoteric, meaning secret or hidden, teaching within Judaism. Its name comes from a Hebrew root meaning to receive or to accept. Essentially, this is knowledge that was passed down orally, from teacher to student, treated like the greatest of treasures. The goal of Kabbalah is not just to believe, but to understand the nature of God, the essence of creation, and most importantly, humanity's place and purpose within that monumental picture. And the central tool for achieving this understanding is the diagram known as Etz Chaim, or the Tree of Life. It's far more than a simple drawing. Kabbalists view it as a living, dynamic model that describes the process of emanation, the outpouring of divine energy, which step by step condenses to create all levels of reality, from the most sublime, spiritual realms down to our physical world. The Tree of Life is simultaneously a map of the cosmos and a map of the human soul. By studying it, we study ourselves and the God within us. It is the ultimate key to understanding how the invisible becomes visible. Let's begin our journey right at the beginning, or perhaps even before the beginning. Kabbalah refers to this state as Ein Sof hour, the infinite light. Now don't picture light like a sunbeam or a lamp. Instead, imagine absolute, boundless, all-pervasive energy, the energy of pure existence itself. In this state, nothing exists but this light. There is no up or down, no time, no space, no subjects, and no objects. There is only the infinite, unified, unknowable, something that serves as the source of all that ever was, is, and will be. This state is so far beyond our human comprehension that speaking about it is almost impossible. Any word, any concept we try to apply to the Ein Sof will automatically limit it, diminishing its true, boundless nature. Therefore, Kabbalists speak of it very cautiously, relying on metaphor. Imagine a vast, shoreless ocean, an ocean with no bottom and no surface. This ocean is the Ein Sof. It holds the potential for all existence, but in an unmanifested state. Think of it as a completely blank sheet of paper. No line has been drawn yet, but it potentially contains every possible drawing or masterpiece. Or consider the deepest silence, within which all possible sounds and melodies are hidden. The Ein Sof is the absolute zero from which infinity is born. This is the first and most fundamental concept in Kabbalah, understanding that everything is rooted in this single, infinite, and incomprehensible beginning is the starting point for comprehending the entire map of the divine world. On the screen, you are now seeing the symbol used for this concept. Usually, it is depicted as pure, empty space or a simple circle, symbolizing the boundlessness from which everything is about to emerge. This is the great mystery that precedes the very first moment of creation. So, we begin with the Ein Sof, the infinite light that permeates all existence. But how could anything else emerge from this absolute unity and completeness? If God, or the infinite, is everywhere, where is there room left for creation? This is where Kabbalah introduces one of its most profound and paradoxical ideas, Tzimtzum, which in Hebrew means contraction or withdrawal. According to this teaching, in order to create the world, the infinite light had to perform an act of self-limitation. It essentially contracted or receded from a specific central point within itself, thereby yielding a metaphorical empty space. It is crucial to understand that this is not physical space. It is a conceptual void, a vacuum in which something distinct from the infinite light itself could finally manifest. Imagine inflating a balloon. For the space inside filled with air to appear, the surrounding environment must yield, making room. Tzimtzum is something similar, but on a cosmic, divine scale. God, in effect, inhaled, creating the potential for the exhale, which is creation itself. This act of contraction is the initial manifestation of divine will and the first step toward creating diversity out of absolute unity. This is an incredibly bold idea. It suggests that the foundation of our entire existence rests upon an act of divine self-sacrifice, a deliberate lessening of the self purely so that we might exist. On screen now, you can visualize this as infinite light, in the center of which a dark sphere forms, that primordial void, or the Tehiru. It is into this void that a thin ray of divine light then penetrates, beginning the formation of the structure known as the Tree of Life. Tzimtzum is the great paradox. Creation does not begin with an act of building up, but with an act of withdrawal. This is the mystery that underlies the fundamental separation between the I and the not I, between the creator and the creation. Following the Tzimtzum, the contraction that created a conceptual space for existence, a singular thin ray penetrates this void, piercing through from the infinite light of Ein Sof. This ray, known as the Kav, carries within it all the information and energy required for the subsequent creation of the universe. The very first point where this ray manifests, the initial emanation, is called Keter, Hebrew for crown. Keter is the apex of the Tree of Life, representing its highest and most subtle dimension. Imagine a crown not resting directly on a ruler's head, but hovering just above it. This symbolizes a connection to something transcendent, a power that exists beyond the ruler himself. Similarly, Keter is the nexus point where our manifest world touches the unknowable, Ein Sof. It represents pure, undifferentiated divine will, God's very first desire to express itself. It is the moment of, let there be light, yet preceding the light gaining any specific characteristics or qualities. In human psychology, Keter corresponds to the deepest level of the self, the divine spark within us, that which exists beyond the constraints of ego and personality. It is our purest potential, our inherent connection to the infinite. Keter is so abstract and elevated that it is often referred to as ayin or nothingness, because from the perspective of our material world, it is genuinely beyond concrete definition. However, this nothingness is not a void, but rather the fullness of all possibility. On the Tree of Life, Keter is depicted as the uppermost sphere, radiating a brilliant, pure white light. Visualize it as a dazzling point of light from which all subsequent creation flows. It is the beginning of all beginnings, the seed from which the entire tree will ultimately grow. While Keter cannot be grasped directly, we can sense its presence in moments of profound inspiration, deep intuition, or spiritual awakening, those times when we feel intrinsically connected to something far greater than ourselves. Starting from the singular point of Keter, the divine energy begins its initial separation. This brings us to the second Sephira on the Tree of Life, Chokhmah, which means wisdom. If Keter represents pure will toward creation, then Chokhmah is the very first, primal impulse of that creation. It's like a flash of lightning in the darkness, a sudden realization, not yet clothed in any form. This is pure, dynamic, unrestrained energy. Kabbalists associate Chokhmah with the masculine, active, fertilizing principle within the universe. It is often referred to as the Father, or Abba. Imagine an artist who is suddenly struck by a brilliant idea for a painting. It is not the painting itself, nor the sketch, nor the plan. It is simply the raw, unadulterated creative impulse, the flash of inspiration. That is the energy of Chokmah. This wisdom is not about accumulated knowledge. Rather, it's the intuitive, instantaneous grasp of truth that flows from a source exceeding our rational mind. On the tree of life, Chokmah sits at the top of the right column, the pillar of mercy. Its colour is a clear, brilliant blue or grey, symbolising the boundless waters of cosmic wisdom. Visually, you might imagine it as a seed, containing the entire potential of the future tree, or as a point striving to expand and become a line. Chokmah is the energy of pure potential, unlimited and free. It holds within it all possible ideas and forms, but it has not yet solidified into any one of them. In the human psyche, Chokmah corresponds to the brain's right hemisphere, which governs intuition, creativity, spontaneity, and holistic perception. It is the ability to see the entire picture rather than breaking it down into separate parts. Without the next Sephira, Binah, the energy of Chokmah would remain a chaotic flash, incapable of structured creation. It is the crucial first step, but creation demands a second. If Chokmah is an irresistible, fiery impulse, then for anything to be born from it, it requires structure, form, a vessel capable of receiving and defining that energy. This role is fulfilled by the third Sephira, Binah, which translates to understanding or discernment. Binah represents the great forming principle in the universe. It takes the boundless energy of Chokmah and clothes it in the first conceptual frameworks. If Chokmah is the flash of inspiration, the idea itself, Binah is the detailed development of that idea, the creation of the blueprint or the plan. It is the process of comprehension and structuring. For this reason, Binah is often called the mother, Imma, and is associated with the feminine, passive, receptive principle. She is the great cosmic womb where the fertilizing seed of Chokmah begins to develop into a concrete design. On the tree of life, Binah resides at the top of the left column, the pillar of severity. Its colour is black, the colour of depth, mystery, and the unmanifested realm from which form is born. Imagine an architect. Chokmah is his sudden inspiration, the visionary spark of the future building. Binah is the work done at the drafting table, translating that vision into precise calculations, schematics and plans, thereby giving the idea structure and logic. Without Binah, Chokmah's creative impulse would simply dissipate. Binah provides definition, boundaries and laws. It is here that the concepts of time and space, cause and effect, are first born. In human consciousness, Binah corresponds to the left hemisphere of the brain, which governs logic, analysis, rational thought, and speech. This is our ability to analyze, classify, and understand the world through structured concepts. Together, the first triad, Keter, Chokmah, and Binah, form the supernal triangle, or the world of ideas. This is the level of pure divine intellect, where the archetypes of all existence are created, prior to their manifestation on the lower planes of being. Between the supernal divine triangle, Keter, Chokmah, and Binah, and the subsequent 7 Sefirot that shape the world of forms, lies a conceptual chasm known as the abyss, or Da'at. It is crucial to understand that Da'at is not a Sephira in the same way the others are. In many diagrams of the Tree of Life, it is drawn with a dotted line to emphasize its unique, liminal status. Da'at translates to knowledge, but this is not merely intellectual understanding. Rather, it is knowledge born of direct experience and absolute unity. Da'at is the point where the abstract concepts of the supernal Trinity can be truly known, grasped, and integrated before they manifest fully into reality. It acts as the critical bridge between the world of pure ideas and the world of forms. Imagine reading an entire book about how to swim. This is knowledge at the level of Binah, purely conceptual understanding. But when you jump into the water and actually begin to swim, you acquire Da'at, knowledge through direct experience, the fusion of theory and practice. Da'at is the result of the harmonious union of Chokhmah, wisdom, and Binah, understanding. When these masculine and feminine principles unite, their child, knowledge, is born. Crossing the abyss is one of the pivotal moments on the human spiritual journey. It signifies the absolute necessity of letting go of the ego and abandoning familiar concepts, a willingness to face the unknown in order to reach a new level of consciousness. The abyss separates our mundane, everyday self from our higher, spiritual self. Many mystics describe this experience as the dark night of the soul, a necessary period of disorientation and the loss of old reference points required to attain true, profound knowledge. Visually, Da'at can be imagined as a tunnel or vortex, connecting the upper and lower sections of the tree. It is the crucial point of transformation where the divine blueprint is prepared to become concrete reality. Without Da'at, the tree of life would remain fundamentally separated into two halves, and the divine energy would be unable to flow downward to successfully manifest and create the world. Crossing the abyss brings us into the realm of emotions and ethical principles. The first Sefirah we encounter here is Chesed, which translates to mercy, love, or greatness, compassion. Chesed resides on the pillar of mercy, positioned directly below Chokhmah, serving as its continuation, but on a more defined level. If Chokhmah represents unlimited potential, then Chesed embodies the boundless desire to give and expand. It is pure, unconditional love, limitless generosity, and the innate drive toward growth and abundance. Imagine the sun, which shines indiscriminately on everyone, the righteous and the wicked alike, asking nothing in return. This perfectly illustrates the principle of Chesed. Mythologically, this Sefirah is often associated with the archetype of the benevolent and generous king or the supreme father god, like Jupiter or Zeus, who rules with wisdom and favour. Chesed is the empire builder, the lawgiver, the patron. It is the energy that creates structure, not for restriction, but for prosperity and thriving. The colour associated with Chesed is blue, the hue of tranquility, depth, and stability. Visually, you might picture it as an inexhaustible spring pouring forth life-giving water. In human psychology, Chesed manifests as our capacity for compassion, kindness, forgiveness, and altruism. It is the urge to help others, to share what we possess, and to genuinely rejoice in the success of those around us. However, like any powerful energy, Chesed in its purest, unbalanced state can be destructive. Uncontrolled expansion and indiscriminate generosity can lead to chaos, the enabling of weaknesses, and general irresponsibility. Think of a parent who constantly showers a child with gifts and never denies them anything. This ultimately results in negative consequences. Therefore, for universal harmony, Chesed requires its necessary counterbalance, which we will encounter in the next Sefirah. Directly across from Hesed, positioned on the pillar of severity, the left pillar, lies its essential counterpart, the fifth Sefirah, Geburah. The name itself signifies severity, strength, or judgment. If Hesed represents the power of expansion, then Geburah is the force of contraction, limitation, and distinction. If Hesed is the unconditional yes, Geburah is the necessary no. This energy is crucial for giving structure and form to the boundless flow of mercy emanating from Hesed. Imagine a gardener. Hesed is the rampant growth of the plants, their natural desire to occupy every available space. Geburah, on the other hand, is the pruning shears in the gardener's hand, cutting away the weak, the sick, and the excessive growth to imprison the healthy branches and ensure a good harvest. Without Geburah, the unbounded mercy of Hesed would quickly devolve into suffocating chaos. Geburah embodies the principle of judgment, not in the sense of punishment, but as objective assessment and the establishment of necessary boundaries. It is the force that declares, this is productive, and that is harmful. This is right, and that is wrong. It brings clarity and order. Mythologically, Geburah is associated with the warrior god archetype, such as Mars or Ares. It is the energy of discipline, willpower, courage, and the necessary ability to destroy what is outdated hinders progress. The colour of Geburah is red, the colour of fire, power, and decisive action. In human psychology, Geburah manifests as our capacity for self-discipline, critical thinking, the ability to say no, and the strength to uphold our boundaries. It is the raw willpower that helps us overcome obstacles and maintain focus on our goals. Naturally, an excess of Geburah is just as perilous as its deficiency. Unbalanced, Geburah devolves into cruelty, tyranny, fanaticism, and unjustified aggression. Harmony is born only through the dynamic interaction between Hesed and Geburah, between mercy and severity. Their equilibrium gives rise to the next, central Sephirah on the Tree of Life. At the very heart of the Tree of Life, positioned on the central pillar, lies the sixth, Sefirot, Tifereth. Its name translates simply as beauty or splendour. Tifereth represents the point of perfect equilibrium between the expansive grace of Chesed and the restrictive severity of Geburah. It is the ultimate harmony of opposites. If Chesed is the thesis and Geburah is the antithesis, then Tifereth is their vital synthesis. It acts as the core of the entire Sephirotic system, bridging the higher spiritual planes with the lower, more material ones. This is why Tifereth is often referred to as the heart of the tree, the sacred nexus where the divine meets the human. Imagine a set of scales. On one side, limitless love. On the other, rigorous justice. Tifereth is the fulcrum of that balance, allowing both principles to work together seamlessly, thereby generating harmony and profound beauty. Mythologically, Tifereth is associated with the archetype of the dying and resurrecting god, such as Christ, Osiris, or Dionysus. This symbolizes the necessary sacrifice of the ego to attain higher consciousness, leading to genuine transformation and spiritual rebirth. It also embodies the archetype of the divine child, the son who acts as the intermediary between the celestial father, Chokmah, and the terrestrial mother, Binah. The colour corresponding to Tifereth is yellow or gold, the hues of the sun, radiance, and enlightenment. Visually, it is the radiant core from which beams of light extend outward to all the other Sephiroth. In human psychology, Tifereth aligns with our true self, or higher self. It is the centre point of our personality, the nexus of awareness where we find equilibrium between our desires and our duties, between emotion and pure reason. Achieving the level of Tifereth on the spiritual path signifies gaining wholeness, profound self-awareness, and the capacity for genuine self-sacrificing and harmonious love. It is the state in which an individual acts not from selfish, egoic motives, but from their deep inner centre, moving in perfect harmony with the entire universe. Moving further down the tree of life, we arrive at the next triangle, the one that governs personality and the more specific aspects of our existence. The seventh Sephirah, Netzach, rests on the right pillar of mercy, directly beneath Chesed. Its name is typically translated as victory, or sometimes eternity. Netzach represents the world of our fundamental instincts, our raw emotions, desires, and passions. It is the untamed, primordial energy that truly drives us. If Tiferet is the conscious heart, Netzach is the instinctive heart. This is the force of nature within us, our animal instincts, our creative urges, and our sexual energy. It encompasses everything related to feeling rather than pure intellect. Imagine a wild, untamed forest or a churning ocean. That is the energy of Netzach. Powerful, chaotic, brimming with life, yet lacking structure or deliberate order. Mythologically, Netzach is associated with the goddess of love and beauty, figures like Venus or Aphrodite. It embodies the principle of attraction, desire, and inspiration, the very foundation of art, poetry, and romantic relationships. This energy compels us toward unity, pushing us to dissolve the boundaries between the self and the other. The colour of Netzach is green, the colour of nature, growth, and fertility. In human psychology, Netzach represents our entire emotional sphere. It is our fundamental capacity to feel joy, sorrow, love, and anger. It encompasses our dreams, our fantasies, and our creative imagination. This is the part of us that simply wants to enjoy life, to create, and to love freely. However, like any force on the right pillar, Netzach, in its purest form, is inherently unbalanced. Unchecked emotions and desires can lead to self-indulgence, illusion, self-deception, and the relentless chase of fleeting pleasures. Emotions without reason are blind. Therefore, for the personality to function harmoniously, Netzach requires its direct opposite, a Sephira that brings order and structure to the chaotic world of feeling. Contrasting the emotional and instinctive nature of Netzach and positioned on the left pillar of Severity, we find the 8th Sephirah, Hod. Its name translates to glory, splendor, or resonance. While Netzach represents the world of feelings, Hod is the realm of reason, intellect, and pure logic. It governs our capacity to analyze, classify, construct theories, and communicate using language and symbols. Hod takes the raw emotional energy of Netzach and gives it form, embodying it in words and concepts. Imagine a scientist in a laboratory, systematizing data, building hypotheses, and describing discoveries through precise formulas. That is the essence of Hod's energy. It is responsible for all mental processes, overseeing science, philosophy, writing, and communication. In mythology, Hod is associated with the messenger god, the patron of knowledge and commerce, such as Mercury or Hermes. It represents the principle of rational thought that allows us to understand and interact with the world on a purely intellectual level. The colour of Hod is orange, symbolising intellect and communication. Psychologically, Hod is our mind, the intellectual aspect of our ego. It is the part of us that constantly thinks, analyses, doubts, and seeks explanations for everything. It embodies our capacity for learning, planning, and strategic thinking. Netzach and Hod form a perfect duality, heart versus mind, feeling versus thought. Ideally, they should function in harmony. The mind should guide and structure the emotions, while the emotions should invigorate and inspire the mind. However, if Hod dominates, the individual becomes overly rational, dry, cynical, and detached from their feelings and intuition. They risk getting lost in their own theories and losing connection with reality. This is the pitfall of pure intellectualism. For a complete and fulfilling life, the balance between Netzach and Hod is essential, a balance which is ultimately achieved in the following 9th Sephirah. Below Tifereth, situated on the central pillar of equilibrium, lies the 9th Sephirah, Yesod, which translates directly as the foundation. Yesod is an immensely crucial center because it gathers and synthesizes the energies of all 8 preceding Sefirot, forming them into a unified matrix, or the astral blueprint which will then manifest in the physical world. Yesod is the realm of our subconscious, our imagination, our dreams, and our instincts. It serves as the repository for all our memories, habitual patterns, and automated responses. If you picture the tree of life as a comprehensive creation process, then Yesod is the final architectural blueprint, the precise design upon which the physical house, Malkuth, will be constructed. It is, in essence, the etheric double of our physical reality. Everything that exists in the physical world first originates as an image or an idea at the level of Yesod. To visualize this, consider the operation of a film projector. The strip of film containing the images is Yesod, and the screen upon which those images are cast is Malkuth. Yesod forms the fundamental basis of our personality, the hidden foundation upon which our conscious self is built. Mythologically, Yesod is associated with the moon. It reflects the light of the sun, or Tifereth, and governs the ebb and flow of tides, natural cycles, and our deep subconscious rhythms. The colour of Yesod is typically violet or deep lilac, symbolising intuition and profound mysteries. In human psychology, Yesod corresponds to the vast realm of the unconscious mind. This is where our complexes, repressed desires, archetypes, and primal instincts reside. Working with Yesod involves disciplines like dream work, deep meditation, and active imagination. It provides the key to understanding the hidden motivations behind our behavior. It is at the Yesod level that our ego is formed, the very mask or persona that we present to the external world. Because of this, Yesod is also referred to as the kingdom of illusions, since the images we construct here are often mistaken by us for concrete reality. The purification of Yesod, that is, becoming conscious of our underlying subconscious programming, is a vital step towards spiritual integrity before we can fully engage with the final Sephirah. And so we arrive at the foundation of the Tree of Life, the 10th and final Sephirah, Malkuth, meaning kingdom. Malkuth represents our physical, material realm, the world we perceive entirely through our 5 senses. It is the earth beneath our feet, our own bodies, the cities we inhabit, and the whole visible universe. Malkuth is the absolute endpoint of the entire process of divine light emanation. It is here that the energy, having passed through all 9 preceding stages, becomes maximally dense, crystallizing entirely into physical matter. Malkuth holds no inherent light of its own. Like the moon, it simply receives and reflects the illumination of the higher Sefirot. For this reason, it is often called the bride or the queen, accepting the energy poured into it by the king, a reference to the entirety of the rest of the tree. Imagine the divine light as a stream of water flowing downward. Keter is the primordial source. The Sefirot act as interconnected vessels through which the water flows, gaining different hues and qualities. Malkuth, then, is the serene lake at the foot of the mountain, the basin where all this water gathers, and where the entire mountain is perfectly reflected. Malkuth is the culmination of all creation, but it is far from a passive result. It is also the necessary starting point for the return journey, the soul's path of ascent, back to its divine source. It is specifically here, within this material world, that the great labour of conscious realization and spiritual growth takes place. Our imperative in Malkuth is not to escape matter, but to sanctify it, to actively manifest the divine light through our everyday actions and commitments. The colour assigned to Malkuth is a unique combination of 4 colours, citrine, olive, russet and black, symbolising the 4 fundamental elements of the material world: earth, water, air and fire. Within the human body, Malkuth corresponds to the feet, representing our essential connection to the earth. It governs our ability to be fully present, acting effectively in the physical realm of the here and now. To truly understand Malkuth is to grasp that our physical world is not separate or isolated from the divine. Rather, it is the divine's densest manifestation, its tangible, realized kingdom. Now that we've looked at all 10 Sefirot, let's examine the overall structure of the Tree of Life. You may have noticed that the Sefirot are not arranged chaotically. Instead, they form 3 distinct vertical columns. The right pillar, which hosts Chokmah, Chesed, and Netzach, is known as the Pillar of Mercy, or Jachin. This column embodies the masculine, active, expansive, and giving principle. It represents pure, untamed energy, boundless strength, and abundance. If the universe consisted solely of this pillar, it would explode into infinite formless expansion. This would be energy without control, a boundless love that ultimately becomes suffocating and destructive. Imagine a river without banks, flooding and submerging everything in its path. That is the power of the right pillar in its extreme manifestation. On a psychological level, this pillar is associated with our intuition, emotions, creativity, generosity, and optimism. Individuals who strongly manifest this pillar's energy tend to be open, friendly, brimming with ideas, and highly enthusiastic. They readily share their resources and time. However, their weaknesses often include a lack of discipline, naivety, impracticality, and a tendency toward excess. They might make promises they can't keep and start projects they never finish. Understanding the dynamics of the Pillar of Mercy helps us recognize one of the fundamental forces operating both in the cosmos and within our own psyche. It is the eternal impulse toward growth and bestowal. one of the two foundational supports upon which all creation rests. To understand how balance is achieved, we must now turn to its opposition, the left pillar. Opposite the pillar of mercy stands the left pillar, which houses the Sefirot of Binah, Geburah, and Hod. It is known as the pillar of severity or Boaz. This pillar represents the feminine, passive, restraining, and receptive principle. Its primary function is to give form, structure, and boundaries to the boundless energy of the right pillar. If the right pillar is the force of expansion, the left pillar is the force of contraction. If the universe contained only the left pillar, it would collapse into a single point, becoming a lifeless, frozen structure, order without life, form without content. Imagine a dry riverbed. The channel is set, but the flow is absent. This is the power of the left pillar in its extreme manifestation. It is the skeleton that gives the body shape, but is not the life force itself. On a psychological level, this pillar corresponds to our intellect, logic, analytical skills, critical thinking, discipline, and the ability to set necessary boundaries. Individuals driven by strong left pillar energy tend to be rational, practical, organized, and deeply reliable. They excel as analysts and strategists, capable of dissecting details and identifying flaws within any system. They highly value order and fairness. However, their shadow side can manifest as excessive criticism, pessimism, emotional coolness, and rigidity. They may fear change and struggle with spontaneity or deep empathy. They see the letter of the law, but often fail to see the person behind the rules. The pillar of severity is an indispensable force. It prevents chaos and establishes order. It teaches us responsibility, discipline, and the importance of understanding consequences. It is only through the dynamic interplay of these two pillars, mercy and severity, giving and restriction, that a harmonious and evolving reality is born. Their eternal dance is what creates the rich tapestry of life. Positioned between the two extremes, the pillar of mercy and the pillar of severity, is the central, or middle, pillar. This pillar hosts four Sefirot: Keter at the crown, Tifereth in the centre, Yesod at the foundation, and Malkuth at the very bottom. This column is often referred to as the pillar of balance, or the pillar of consciousness. Its fundamental function is to synthesize and harmonize the opposing energies of the right and left pillars. It truly represents the path of equilibrium, the golden mean. If the right pillar represents yes, and the left pillar represents no, then the central pillar is the mindful response. Yes, but, or no, if. It is the path of conscious choice, moving beyond blind adherence to instinct or dogma. Imagine a tightrope walker. They maintain balance by constantly shifting their weight, subtly moving right and left to remain centered on the wire. This tightrope itself is the middle pillar. Traveling this column is a path of spiritual ascent, which in Kabbalah is known as the path of the arrow. It leads directly from the material world, Malkuth, through the subconscious realm, Yesod, and the center of individuality, Tifereth, up to the divine source, Keter. On a psychological level, this pillar represents our core consciousness, our self, which observes and integrates the disparate parts of our personality. It embodies our capacity for mindfulness, being present in the moment and making balanced decisions. Developing along the middle path means cultivating the ability to avoid extremes. It is the skill of being generous without being wasteful, disciplined without being cruel, emotional without being hysterical, and rational without being unfeeling. This is the ultimate path to achieving wholeness. The tree of life teaches us that true power and wisdom lie not in pursuing one extreme over the other, but in the capacity to hold both in perfect equilibrium. The central pillar is often considered the backbone of the universe and of our own soul, the essential axis around which all life revolves. Up until now, we've focused on the Sefirot, the 10 energetic centers or states of being, but the tree of life is much more than just a collection of 10 points. Equally important are the lines that connect them. There are 22 of these lines, and they are known as the paths. If the Sefirot are, metaphorically speaking, the cities on a map, Then the paths are the roads connecting them. Each of these 22 paths represents a specific type of energy, an archetypal experience, or a lesson that must be integrated to move from one state of consciousness, or Sephira, to the next. The traditional teachings of the Kabbalah associate each path with one of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This is not arbitrary. In Hebrew, letters are far more than just symbols for sounds. Every single letter is considered sacred, a carrier of specific divine energy and cosmic law. Therefore, traversing the paths of the Tree of Life is also a meditative immersion into the meaning and power of each of these letters. Furthermore, in later traditions, particularly in Western esoteric practice, these 22 paths were directly correlated with the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck. For instance, the path connecting Keter and Chokhmah corresponds to the arcana of the Fool, symbolizing the beginning of the journey and pure potential. The path between Chokhmah and Binah aligns with the Magician, representing will and mastery, and so on. This systematic overlay transforms the Tree of Life into an incredibly rich tool for self-discovery. By studying the paths, we gain deep insight into the specific energies that link different aspects of our lives. For example, how are our emotions, Netzach, connected to our intellect, Hod, through the path corresponding to the arcana of the star, which speaks of hope and inspiration. The paths are the dynamic aspect of the tree. They demonstrate that the system is not static, but rather in constant movement and interaction. It is a map not just of what is, but of how to become. Now that we have a general understanding of the structure of the Tree of Life, the crucial question arises, how do we apply all of this to our own lives? Kabbalah posits that man is created in the image of God. This means the Tree of Life is not just a map of the universe, but also a blueprint of our own psychology and spiritual structure. Each of us is a microcosm reflecting the macrocosm. Let's see how this actually works. Keter represents our divine spark, our higher self, the connection to the unified source. Chokhmah and Binah correlate to the two hemispheres of our brain, the intuitive, creative right hemisphere and the logical, analytical left. Chesed is our capacity for love, compassion and generosity. Geburah is our willpower, discipline, and the ability to say no. Tiferet is the center of our being, our personality, our ego in its healthy, balanced state. It is our heart. Netzach represents our emotions, instincts, and desires. Hod is our intellect, communication skills, and capacity for logical thinking. Yesod is our subconscious mind, the world of dreams, memories, and habits. And finally, Malkuth is our physical body and how we interact with the material world. Using this map, we can effectively self-diagnose our lives. For instance, if you struggle with self-discipline or find it hard to follow through on your commitments, you may have insufficient Geburah energy. If you constantly have your head in the clouds and find it difficult to manifest your ideas, you probably need to strengthen your connection to Malkuth. In other words, to get grounded. If you suffer from uncontrolled emotions, you should focus on balancing Netzach and Hod. The Tree of Life thus becomes a powerful tool for self-analysis and focused spiritual growth. By meditating on specific Sefirot, we can activate and balance the corresponding qualities within ourselves. This transforms an ancient cosmological structure into a practical guide for self-development. One of the central tenets of Kabbalah, intrinsically linked to the Tree of Life, is the concept of tikkun olam, literally, the repair of the world. According to the Kabbalistic creation myth, the very beginning of the process of emanation involved a sort of cosmic catastrophe known as Shevirat ha-Kelim, or the shattering of the vessels. The divine light was initially intended to fill 10 vessels, the Sefirot. However, the earliest, most subtle vessels could not contain the immense power of this light and shattered. As a result, sparks of that divine light, Nitzotzot, fell into the lower worlds, becoming trapped within the shells or husks, Klipot, of materiality and ego. Our world, Malkuth, in its current fractured state, is the direct result of this catastrophe, a complex mixture of good and evil, light and shadow. And humanity's fundamental purpose is precisely this: tikkun olam. Through our righteous actions, intentions, and focused thoughts, we must locate these captive sparks of holiness within the physical world and elevate them, returning them to their divine source. Every good deed, every act of compassion, every moment of heightened awareness, each is an act of tikkun. This is the cosmic labor required to restore original harmony. This profound idea imparts tremendous meaning and responsibility to human life. We are not merely passive bystanders in the cosmos. We are active partners with the divine in creation. The fate of the world hinges upon our actions. In this context, the Tree of Life serves not only as a blueprint for how the world was created, but also as a roadmap for its ultimate repair. By ascending the tree through our spiritual evolution, and by balancing the energies of the Sefirot within ourselves, we contribute directly to the rectification of the entire cosmos. When we harmonize chesed, or loving kindness, and Gevurah, judgment, within our souls, we help restore the global balance of mercy and severity. When we unite our intellect, hod, and our emotions, netzach, we facilitate the reunification of fragmented parts of creation. Thus, in Kabbalah, personal transformation and the ultimate transformation of the world are inextricably linked. Let's return to the very top of the Tree of Life and discuss the divine names associated with each Sephirah. Kabbalah teaches that the names of God found throughout sacred texts are not just labels, they are powerful formulas that express specific facets of the divine essence. Each Sephirah possesses its own unique divine name, which acts as a key to unlocking its energy. For Keter, the crown, the divine name is Ehyeh, often translated as I am that I am, or simply I will be. This is the name revealed to Moses from the burning bush. It expresses the pure, undifferentiated essence of being, the eternal present. It is a statement of existence in and of itself, devoid of all attributes. Meditating on this name helps us connect with the deepest level of our own existence, the part of us that simply is, beyond all roles, names, and definitions. It is the realization of the pure self, an echo of the divine I am. It is arguably the most powerful affirmation of being. Practically speaking, working with the name Ehyeh is a practice of pure mindfulness, of dwelling entirely in the here and now, releasing all thoughts of the past and future. It is an attempt to touch the state that precedes thought itself, reaching for pure consciousness. This name reminds us that our true nature is not our thoughts, not our feelings, nor our body, but the eternal, unchanging witness to it all, beingness itself. Understanding this aspect of Keter through its divine name helps us lay the proper foundation for the entire spiritual path. Before we can comprehend who we are, we must realize that we simply are. This is the starting point from which the entire tapestry of our experience unfolds. The divine name associated with the second Sephirah, Chokhmah, wisdom, is Yah. It is an incredibly short yet profoundly powerful name. Considered the masculine aspect of the divine name, it represents the pure, dynamic, creative impulse. Yah is the divine seed, the primal point from which the entire universe unfolds. It is the force behind the Big Bang. It is that flash of genius that strikes the scientist or the artist. If Ehyeh, Keter, represents the static I am, then Yah, Chokhmah, is the very first movement out of that state, the initial manifestation of will directed outwards. This is the energy of pure potential, not yet having taken on any specific form. Visualize a compressed spring ready to unleash tremendous force. This latent potential energy is Yah. In sacred texts, this name is frequently encountered within the word Hallelujah, which means praise Yah. It is a call to extol that very first, primal creative impulse of the divine. Meditating on the name Yah helps cultivate intuition, enhance creative abilities, and sharpen the capacity to receive new ideas. It is a way of tuning in to the current of divine inspiration. On a psychological level, This name is connected to our ability to initiate new projects, take risks, and venture beyond the familiar. It embodies the vital energy of the pioneer and the inventor. Working with the energy of Chokmah through the name Yah means opening ourselves up to the new, to unexpected insights, and to the wisdom that flows not from books, but directly from the source. It is about developing trust in your intuition, in that initial, subtle impulse that so often proves to be the most accurate. It is the ability to capture that divine spark which ignites the fire of creation. The divine name corresponding to the third Sephirah, Binah, understanding, is Yahweh Elohim. This compound name carries immense weight. Yahweh is the tetragrammaton, the unpronounceable name of God, often translated simply as the Lord. It represents the dynamic, transcendent aspect of the divine. Elohim is the name of God used in the very first line of the Bible. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Being plural, Elohim signifies the aspect of God as the totality of divine forces, the creator of the manifested, structured, and ordered world. Therefore, the name Yahweh Elohim symbolizes the ultimate union of the transcendent, Yahweh, and the immanent, Elohim, God beyond the world and God within the world. Crucially, this name represents the process by which boundless energy, Chokmah, is clothed in concrete form and structure, Binah. Binah, known as the Great Mother, takes the seed of Yah and gestates it, transforming it into an ordered cosmos. Yahweh Elohim is God as the divine architect who establishes the laws of nature, time, and space. Meditating on this name helps to develop logical thought, analytical skills, planning ability, and the comprehension of complex systems. It is the method used to bring order to the chaos of our thoughts and feelings. Psychologically, this name is connected to our capacity for deep reflection, introspection, and the creation of long-term strategies. It embodies the energy of the scientist, the legislator, and the supreme organizer. Working with the energy of Binah through the name Yahweh Elohim is the development of our inner editor, the faculty that helps us prune what is unnecessary, structure our ideas, and bring them to logical conclusion. It is the skill of not just generating concepts, but meticulously planning and understanding cause and effect to bring them into manifest reality. The divine name associated with the fourth Sefirot, Chesed, mercy or loving kindness, is El. It is one of the most ancient names for the divine in the Middle East, simply meaning God, strength, or authority. Within the context of the tree of life, El represents the aspect of God as the merciful, loving, and generous ruler. This is the archetype of God the Father, who cares deeply for his creation and grants it everything necessary for life and prosperity. El is the force behind the abundance of nature and the laws that uphold order and justice, but a merciful justice, not a punitive one. This is the energy of growth, expansion, and profound blessing. Consider the archetype of the benevolent King Solomon, renowned for his wisdom and generosity. That is the human manifestation of the Chesed energy. Meditating on the name El helps us cultivate the qualities of compassion, kindness, generosity, and forgiveness. It is a way to open your heart and learn to love unconditionally, just as the divine loves all creation. This practice assists us in overcoming stinginess, envy, and judgment. On a psychological level, working with the energy of Chesed through the name El means developing our inner benefactor. This is the ability to truly see the good in others, to believe in their potential, and to fully support their journey. It is the skill required for building harmonious relationships based on trust and mutual aid. This energy is also associated with leadership, not authoritarian leadership, but leadership built on caring for those under your command and striving for the common good. The name El reminds us that true strength lies not in domination over others, but in the ability to serve them and help them grow. This is the energy of creation and sustenance that underpins any healthy social structure, whether it be a family, a community, or an entire nation. The fifth Sephirah, Geburah, which represents severity or strictness, is associated with the divine name Elohim Gibor. Again we encounter the name Elohim, but this time with the addition of Gibor, meaning the mighty, the strong, or the warrior. Thus, Elohim Gibor depicts God as the mighty judge or the divine warrior. This aspect of the divine is responsible for setting boundaries, executing laws, and dismantling anything that hinders growth or progress. It is the divine force that brings clarity and discernment. If El, Chesed, is the energy of unconditional love, then Elohim Gibor represents the energy of necessary strictness and justice. It is the power that says no to evil and injustice. It is the archangel's sword, cutting away everything false or outdated. Imagine a surgeon making a painful incision to remove a tumour and save a patient's life. The surgeon's actions might seem harsh, but they are driven by necessity and ultimately serve the greater good. That is the essence of Geburah's energy. Meditating on the name Elohim Gibor helps us develop willpower, self-discipline, courage, and the ability to stand firm on our principles. It is a way to learn how to say no to what harms us or others, even when that is difficult. It helps overcome fear, laziness, and indecisiveness. On a psychological level, working with the energy of Geburah through the name Elohim Gibor is about developing our inner warrior or judge. This means cultivating critical thinking skills and the capacity for objective self-assessment and evaluation of others. It is the ability to set healthy personal boundaries and demand respect. This is the vital strength needed to conquer detrimental habits and addictions. The name Elohim Gibor reminds us that true love sometimes requires strictness, and true strength demands discipline and a readiness to fight for what is right. The divine name associated with the central Sefirah, Tiferet, or beauty, is YHWH, Eloah Vida'at. This is a complex and highly multifaceted name. As we know, YHWH is the transcendent name of God. Eloah is another form of the name God, often linked to the human experience or perception of the divine. And Veda'at translates simply as and in knowledge. Thus, the entire name can be interpreted as the Lord God revealed in knowledge. Tiferet represents the crucial point where the transcendent divine, YHWH, meets human consciousness, Eloah, through experiential understanding, or Da'at. This is the sphere where we come to know God, not as an abstract concept, but as a living presence within our hearts. It is the core of our awareness, the pivotal point of balance, where we achieve wholeness and integration. Tiferet symbolizes the essential principle of harmony and sacrifice. It embodies the archetype of the Son, who sacrifices the individual ego to fulfill the Father's will. It is the perfect beauty born from the precise equilibrium of all components within a system. Meditating on the name YHWH, Eloah Veda'at, helps us achieve inner peace, integrity, and profound self-awareness. It is a direct pathway to connect with our true self, the identity that exists beyond the masks and roles of the ego. This practice heals internal conflicts and establishes a harmonious balance between the various aspects of our personality. On a psychological level, working with the energy of Tiferet is the route to self-actualization. It fosters genuine compassion, which arises not from pity, as in unbalanced Chesed, but from a deep fundamental understanding of the unity of all existence. It is the acquisition of wisdom, the perfect synthesis of love and strength. The name YHWH, Eloah Veda'at, reminds us that true divine knowledge is only possible through sincere self-knowledge, by honestly gazing into the depths of our own hearts. This is the precise point where we realize ourselves as children of God, as sparks of divine light clothed in human form. For the seventh Sephirah, Netzach, which means victory, the divine name is Yahweh Tzvaot. This is traditionally translated as the Lord of Hosts. The term Tzvaot itself means hosts, armies, or multitudes. This name presents God as the commander of the celestial armies of angels. However, within the context of Netzach, which governs the world of emotions, instincts, and nature, the hosts can be understood differently. They are the countless forces of nature, the myriad living beings that constitute the very army of life. Yahweh Tzvaot is the God who manifests through the sheer wildness and diversity of nature, through the instinctive urge for survival and procreation. This is the divine power driving evolution, the force behind the eternal struggle and the ultimate victory of life over death. It is the energy of passion, desire, and creativity that propels all living things. It is the fire in our veins that compels us to love, to create, and to strive toward our goals. Meditating on the name Yahweh Tzvaot helps awaken our inner vitality, enthusiasm, and passion. It is a path to connecting with our true desires and emotions, overcoming apathy and indifference. Furthermore, it aids in developing creative imagination and an intuitive appreciation of beauty. On a psychological level, working with the energy of Netzach involves the acceptance and integration of our emotional and instinctual nature. It requires understanding that our feelings are not enemies, but rather a source of immense power and inspiration when properly directed. This energy also fosters empathy and the capacity to feel and resonate with others. The name Yahweh Tzvaot reminds us that God is present not only in silence and order, but also in chaos, in passion, and in the very heart of life. It is a calling to not fear our feelings, but to learn how to dance with them, transforming them into a creative force that guides us to victory, to a full and vibrant life. The eighth Sefirah, Hod, often translated as glory or splendor, is associated with the divine name Elohim Tzvaot. We encounter Tzvaot, meaning hosts or armies again, but here it is coupled with Elohim, the name representing God as the architect of cosmic order, while Yahweh Tzvaot, Netzach, governs the chaotic and instinctive forces of nature. Elohim Tzvaot, Hod, oversees ordered systems. These include the laws of science, the structure of language, logic, and pure intellect. Here, the hosts are the armies of thoughts, ideas, concepts, words, and symbols. Elohim Tzvaot is God manifest as the divine scientist or the great communicator. This is the aspect of the divine that operates through the human mind, our capacity to think, analyze, communicate, and construct complex intellectual frameworks. It is the divine spark that enabled the creation of science, philosophy, literature, and technology. It is the power that refines raw data into profound knowledge. Meditating on the name Elohim Tzvaot helps cultivate clarity of thought, intellectual prowess, and effective communication skills. It provides the means to express oneself accurately and clearly, fostering compelling and truthful interaction. Working with this name aids in overcoming mental confusion, false beliefs, and self-deception. On a psychological level, engaging with the energy of Hod means developing our intelligence and capacity for learning. It involves the ability to separate fact from opinion, build logical sequences, and discern structure within any body of information. It also encompasses the development of self-reflection, the capacity to analyze one's own thought processes. The name Elohim Tzvaot reminds us that the mind is a divine gift, a powerful instrument for understanding the world and ourselves. However, like any tool, it must serve a higher purpose, the pursuit of truth and the glory of the Creator, rather than merely inflating the individual ego. The ninth Sephirah, Yesod, known as the Foundation, is associated with the divine name Shaddai El Hai. This is an extremely powerful name. Shaddai is often translated as the Almighty, and El Hai means the living God. Therefore, Shaddai El Hai translates to the Almighty Living God. Yesod is the sphere that gathers all the energies from the higher Sefirot, forming the astral matrix upon which the physical world is constructed. It is the very foundation of reality, the source of the vital force that sustains all existence. This is why the name, the Almighty Living God, is so perfectly suited here. It represents God as the ultimate source of all life, fertility, and the reproductive power within the universe. Shaddai is the force that causes the seed to sprout and living organisms to multiply. It is the eternal, inexhaustible current of life energy. Yesod is also the sphere of the subconscious and the imagination. The name Shaddai El Hai suggests that our thoughts and the images formed within our subconscious possess immense creative power. These thoughts are alive, and they actively seek manifestation in reality. Meditating on the name Shaddai El Hai helps us connect directly to this flow of life force, strengthening our health and vitality. It is a powerful method for clearing the subconscious of negative programming and filling it instead with positive, life-affirming images. Furthermore, it aids in developing intuition and the ability to perceive the hidden connections between events. On a psychological level, working with the energy of Yesod means engaging with our inner world, our dreams, fantasies, and automatic reactions. It is the realization that our external world is merely a reflection of our internal state. By shifting the foundation, Yesod, we inherently change the structure built upon it, Malkuth. Ultimately, the name Shaddai El Hai reminds us of the profound responsibility we hold for the quality of our thoughts and inner images, for they are truly the seeds of our future reality. And finally, we come to the 10th Sefirot, Malkuth, the kingdom. Its divine name is Adonai Melech, which translates as the Lord is King. This name is sometimes also formulated as Adonai Haaretz, the Lord of the earth. It underscores God's aspect as the sovereign ruler of the manifested physical world. If Keter is the crown, Malkuth is the kingdom, the very space where that divine authority is exercised. The God revealed in Malkuth is not a distant transcendent ruler, but the immanent God, present here and now, whose existence can be sensed in every single atom of matter. This immediate divine presence in the world is known in Kabbalah as the Shekinah. This is the feminine aspect of God, who dwells, or tabernacles, among creation. Malkuth, therefore, is the kingdom of the Shekinah. The name Adonai Melech reminds us that the material world is not bad or intrinsically unspiritual. On the contrary, it is a sacred space, the very kingdom of God that we are called upon to cultivate and perfect. Meditating on Adonai Melech helps us cultivate a deep sense of groundedness, practicality, and profound responsibility. It is the practice of seeing the divine hidden within the ordinary and finding holiness in our daily tasks. It allows us to overcome any contempt for the physical realm, teaching us to cherish our bodies and the surrounding environment. Psychologically, engaging with the energy of Malkuth is about developing our capacity for concrete action, being effective, practical, and bringing projects to completion. It is the mastery of taking full responsibility for our own life and surroundings, realizing that we are the steward within our personal, miniature kingdom, our own existence. Ultimately, the name Adonai Melech is an urgent call to action. It instructs us, this is the kingdom. Rule it wisely and justly. Be the divine viceroys or representatives here on earth. It serves as the concluding chord in the symphony of creation, which is simultaneously the starting point of our own personal journey of service and the perfection or repair of the world. And just like that, we have completed a monumental journey. We travelled from the incomprehensible infinity of Ein Sof, through the divine contraction known as Tzimtzum, all the way down the 10 steps of the tree of life, right to the solid ground beneath our feet, the Sefirot of Malkuth. We've learned that according to Kabbalah, the universe isn't just a random collection of particles. It is an ordered, living organism, a truly grand design whose blueprint is the tree of life. And the most astonishing revelation is this: that very same map is hardwired into every single one of us. The tree of life is far more than just an ancient symbol. It is the architectural blueprint of our soul, the instruction manual for assembling a balanced personality, and the definitive roadmap for our spiritual journey back toward the source. It is the ultimate tool for understanding why we feel what we feel and why we think what we think. It holds the key to the delicate balance between love and judgment, between heart and mind, between our greatest dreams and current reality. And perhaps the most crucial takeaway from this entire journey is this: We are not merely cogs in some cosmic machine. We are co-creators, active partners with the divine in the grand project known as Tikkun Olam, the repairing of the world. Every conscious choice we make, every act of kindness we perform, and every victory over our own egoism is a direct contribution to restoring universal harmony. Thank you so much for exploring this profound path with me. I realise we covered a huge amount of information, and truly, this is just the tip of the cosmic iceberg. But I sincerely hope this video has ignited a spark of curiosity within you. If it opened your eyes to something new, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our next deep dive into these ancient mysteries. Make sure you ring that notification bell to always stay informed. Now, I am genuinely eager to hear your thoughts. Which Sephira, or which specific aspect of the Tree of Life, resonated most strongly with you or connected with your own life experience? Please share your insights in the comments below. Let's start a discussion.